Good afternoon, everyone. And firstly, thanks for Nalcon and for having us here. It's a pleasure to moderate this panel called PAM Maturity from Zero Trust to Least Privilege. So the way we have structured the discussion is we'll first start with the PAM, then we'll talk about Zero Trust, and then slowly we'll move towards Least Privilege. So my first question to, let's say, Chiranjeev, to you would be, what is PAM for a CISO, and what have you used it for in, let's say, your current or previous organizations?
Thank you, Ajay. So very apt question for today's session. We'll start with the privilege access management. So as we know, privileges are the most important access management criteria in an organization. And mostly these are kind of the keys to the organization's core security. So these are being used mostly by the system administrators, developers, and key operations people who are using it. Now, privileged access management is a key thing for the business, and this is one of the core factors wherein cybersecurity plays a key role here. Privileged access management has to be defined within the organization. So whenever when you go for it, there is a change or cultural change which is required within the organization. You need to have a management buy-in, and you need to explain the approach, the way the culture will differ from the point the implementation starts rolling out. So you need to train your people, the key people who will be part of the PAM process. You need to ensure that they are fully trained, fully equipped, they are accustomed, attuned. SOPs have to be created because this is a very big topic and a lot of things come into the picture. You need to cover the entire IT infrastructure landscape, be it on-prem, on cloud, hybrid environment, wherever you are. You can cover the IT/OT part also, now the DevOps, Kubernetes, etc. So all the paradigms of the world and the emerging evolving cybersecurity risks, you can take care of using the privileged access management as a solution.
Thanks, Sanjeet. You want to add something to it?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point which I wanted to say before I answer the question. Verizon's data breach report says that of all the credentials which have been compromised, 61% of the credentials were privileged credentials. I mean, that's a whopping number because we have seen, there's another report from Checkpoint which says that the attack on the corporate networks the last year is 50% more than the previous year. So that brings me to the point, maybe I will ask a question to the audience, maybe how many of you actually use PAM in your organization? Okay, roughly around 20%, okay. So I'll tell you why I asked this question, because PAM is the privileged access management solution, is like your black box. Only thing is, it doesn't come in orange color. But yes, it's your black box because people focus on your perimeter, people focus on your endpoint. But what happens to access to your servers, which is being routed by a PAM? So to answer your question, yes, it's a very crucial component for the organization. It's a very crucial thing that needs to be managed. And one of the interesting topics, that's one of the reasons why I agreed to, even to participate in this, because I've not seen any of the conferences, somebody talking about a privileged access management and zero trust security. I don't know whether any of you have heard about it. So that's one of a very unique topic and very important topic, which, I would like to share my experiences with Charanjit well, and from a product point of view from Ajay also. That's my answer, sir.
Thank you, Charanjit and Bala. So, very interesting points raised by Charanjit and Bala. One, the number of data breach reports that you see here, all kinds of breaches, like you mentioned, some reports say 61%, some reports say 74%, some reports say 80%. But if you see number one, I would say parameter due to which these breaches happen is the privilege access and privileges. So yes, definitely important. And then yes, a lot of aspects that you can definitely cover. So I want to move on to the zero trust part. So how does PAM address the zero trust model? We talk about the zero trust model. So does PAM address the zero trust model, and how does it do?
Definitely. So zero trust is the core, I will say, wherein the PAM is focusing on. So zero trust means don't trust anyone blindly. So there's no trust for everyone, anywhere, anyone who's trying to access this kind of solution. So person who's trying to access it first need to prove his authenticity, whether he's a genuine user and whether he has been granted privileges or not. And that can be done using multiple ways. Now there are risk-based approach which are coming in, so which take care of not only the identities which are getting authenticated, but also the device through which the user is making a connection or a session, for how much time the session is being done. Those things are being logged, recorded, reported. All change management process are being followed in case of any suspicious thing, or if we have set anything on the organization policy, like something like antivirus updates or patches, if they are not missing, which is forming a baseline for the organization policy. In that case, it will raise an anomaly, and it will come into the picture, and based on the process which is being defined, either you allow it, you deny it, or you isolate that particular system or the user for the time being. This happens. So this is the complete overview of the zero trust architecture on which the PAM is working nowadays.
So my take of on this particular topic is slightly even more grounded, because we are merging two different complex things here. One is a privilege access management, then we are talking about zero trust. So typically, I look at things as visibility, control, and monitor. First I need to have visibility, I need to then deploy the controls, then I need to continuously monitor. So that part of it is my typical operations. But when I come to zero trust, it talks about the device, it talks about the person, it talks about the resource, the application, the port number, these kind of things. So if I'm going to do a 3x3 matrix and see what is that and how much I have to score, it has to be a checkbox in all these 9 boxes. And I need to, have visibility, control, and monitor. Plus, I need to look at the device. I need to look at the people. I also need to look at the resource which the person is going to look into it. Zero trust is a concept. I mean, how things are going to be defined, how things are going to be addressed in an organization depends on how much of other solution they already have to complement this. So just because you're going to have a PAM is not going to ensure that you're going to escape or avoid any kind of an attack, because there are prerequisites for a PAM to be done. So while these are concepts, there are prerequisites and there are approaches, strategies to be implemented, effectively for any solution to work. In this case, it's a PAM. So definitely there's as Sharon was rightly mentioning there, the environment, the dependencies, if these are going to be captured, if we know, very simple for a CISO, it's a sum of risk and sum of controls, right? That's what we look at. So it is not one risk or one individual control is going to protect the organization. It's going to be the sum of risk and the sum of control. So PAM plays a very important role, and definitely with zero trust, I think that will be a killer combination.
Great. So yes, PAM plays a very integral role in implementing zero trust. We heard you right. But I also want to take a key from what Charanjit mentioned, the approach for a PAM. So classically, when we talk PAM, we talk about the access controls, right? So we usually say, okay, compliance. People do it mostly for compliance. So maybe I want to take this question forward, saying PAM on a compliance-based approach or a PAM on a risk-based approach. So this time I would like to start from you, Bala. How would you differentiate, you being from the services sector, how would you differentiate the two? And then we will come to Charanjit from a manufacturing sector. How would he differentiate?
Well, this is going to be a big one because, I come from a function called risk and compliance, right? I mean, compliance is also important, risk is also important. I can't ignore both the pieces. But today, the approach or the thinking, while compliance is important, compliance alone is not going to take care of certain things. In the previous session, when Burgess was there was a question that, if I'm going to comply with these things, is that okay? I mean, it's just a tick in the checkbox. I mean, if RBI is going to give you a mandate that all your BFSI should have a PAM, everybody will implement PAM. That's it. But how is it going to reduce your risk? From a compliance risk point of view, budget will be approved. But today, the biggest problem, in my opinion, what we are also facing with our customers, when we talk to them, it's a tick in the box. And more times we have to educate them. We have to tell them that the concept of do not focus more on the compliance piece, because compliance, yes, will take you there, but sustenance is your risk. But you have a PAM, yes, it's a tick. But tomorrow, will the PAM is going to identify a risk in your environment, which is going to be playing a very pivotal role for you to reduce your risk exposure and improve your, resiliency. I think more from the CXO's point of view, it could be from a risk management. Yes, it's very important. But I think this platform, I mean, one of the other reasons which I love to talk about this topic is because Nalcon is more technical and it's the analyst people who are sitting out there, the engineers who are sitting there. They need to have the business context of the risk. What is this PAM used for? Where is it going? Is it a blip? I mean, you can't write an SOP for common sense. It's very difficult. So the risk is very important, and they are the guys who actually know what is deviating. The CXO doesn't know. CXO is at the apex body, but the risk management, these are the technical guys who have to identify that with the business knowledge. So I think both go hand in hand, but compliance is a mandate, but risk is something which is driven as a culture. If that is going to happen, then I think the value what you get out of the initiative or the strategy is going to be phenomenal. I mean, that's my take on it.
Charanjit, from you.
Yeah. So typically compliance, mostly all the organizations are doing at their end. And either it is due to internal requirement from the board or from the external bodies, whatever it is. But it is a common unilateral thing which all organizations will do. From a risk-based approach, when we talk about it, it provides another flavor of the typical risks which are actually evolving around the organization. Now, what are those risks? Those risks will be both internal and external risks. Now you need to categorize those risks. How will you categorize those risks? With the help of a solution like a PAM, it will provide you a full discovery of all your critical infrastructure which is there. Then you need to identify which ones are the higher risk item for you, which are the critical infrastructure, which are the medium ones, and which are the lower ones. And accordingly, you will like to have the toll gates or the barriers. So the level of difficulty will increase from low, medium to high. That's how I visualize that risk. So typically, it is very easier to explain such kind of thing to the management or board when you say that you're actually applying the risk, which is dynamically evolving within the organization as well as outside the organization. And you are taking proactive approach with the help of a PAM solution.
Sorry, Ajay. Sharan brought a very important point. It just struck me. I think I need to tell this also. I'm sure, people will say, you have to do threat hunting, identify anomalies. How many of you actually identified anomalies? I'm surprised because you can't identify anomalies just like that. Because you have to be constantly monitoring. You need to know a pattern, right? So you don't know what is shifting. So we were just discussing and this came up, and when Sharan brought it out, I thought I should say this because I keep telling that the security community create patterns. If you don't create patterns saying that, for example, you will do a change in the Active Directory only on, say, Tuesdays between 9 and 10 p.m. So anything changes, you don't have to identify an anomaly. You don't have to, wait for the SOC team to raise a ticket, then resolve a group getting into it, then assigning it to it. You don't have to wait. The moment it's going to be on a Monday, you know for sure it's a P1. Why? Because it did not happen on a Tuesday. Simple. Create patterns. If you don't create patterns, anything that deviates from the pattern, then you can classify that as anomalies. If you can't see just a blip and see that that's an anomaly. No, that's not an anomaly. There could be so many reasons why something could have blipped. So many reasons why something could be shown as a blip. So when Charan said that, it just occurred to me. I thought I'll just share that information with you.
Great. So this brings me to our next question, which is, next gen capabilities. But then before that, let's define or let's understand what PAM typically is used for or known for. So we all probably agree that PAM is used for our credential vaulting, right? So we do credential vaulting into the PAM. We do MFA for the users who log in. Passwordless or not knowing the passwords, they can log into the various assets, devices per se. We do session monitoring, session recording, compliance aspects. And then, like we talk right now, risk-based approach, wherein we are talking certain risk analysis, behavior analysis. These are aspects that you expect or we know PAM today delivers. Okay. Now let's talk about what are the next-gen capabilities or next-level capabilities you as practitioners or CISOs you would look for in a PAM next-gen.
Yeah, so some of the new things which I would like to see is how well it integrates with the evolving cloud risk, because now most of the organizations are moving to the cloud. When we talk about the cloud, we have different platforms like IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. Definitely SaaS will go out of frame for the time being, but IaaS and PaaS, major thing. Kubernetes is coming, microservices is coming. How do you address those challenges? IT, OT, SCADA, so a lot of machinery, medical things now happening. And believe me, in those industry, medical industry or manufacturing industry,
you don't have to be worried about it because we have so many people, so much of talent available. They will take care of it.
No, I'm trying to address my problem also. So these medical people or the manufacturing industry, I mean, they require a very, very simple vision. What is actually happening and how to address it at a click of a button? Can that happen? Will that integration happen? Will you simplify the lives of the IT people as simple as that? So that is, I think, the takeaway from the industry is as of now.
You just simplified it too much. So the ask is too much, Ajay, because what happens is today it's more on the PAM, and as I told you, it's a black box, right? So that's the last source where we have to get all the information. And if I don't find what I want, then it's a dead end for me. If I don't get in the PAM, then I don't know where from I'll get certain things, because things could be overwritten, things could be wiped off. I don't know. So very crucial information is what happened when, who accessed it, what did they do, and everything. So it's an evolution what the PAM as a technology as well as a solution, it has evolved. If I look at all these years, it started off as a password repository, right? Way back, 15 years back, whatever it is. Then you started looking at role-based access management. Then slowly devolved into multiple things. And today, when we are looking at next-gen requirements, and we are talking about, zero trust and so many complexities, the learning curve is very steep. And one of the earlier sessions, we had the question, how fast, how hands-on should be the CISO be to, get into every technology. While PAM is one of the most important things, any additional features you bring into to the CXO, to the security community who's going to manage and has got the responsibility to safeguard the organization, it's a big thing. Because if you're going to bring in the commands that cannot be executed, or if you're talking about zero trust privileges there, or a time-based, kind of commands which is being executed, I will execute, even though Bala has got access to a particular server and privileges, but can he run a wipeout command on an Active Directory? He cannot. But earlier solution provided that kind of thing because they're checking their role. But today it has to evolve. To how much is enough, I think our CISOs will never be happy with whatever you give. They will always ask more and more. So there's no end to it, but yes, there is a lot of room for it because it has to work hand in hand with other solutions also. How much I can do integrations, everything. So there's a lot on the table.
I want to run this question with the audience as well, because we have a lot of cybersecurity practitioners, quite a few people you mentioned you have been using PAM. So if we could run a question here, if anybody wants to mention what are the next gen capabilities or sets that they are looking for in a PAM.
But while they want to answer anything, from a product standpoint, what do you think the product community, I mean, from your point of view, what is that you think you should bring there?
Well, actually, to be honest, from the product side of whatever I have seen, whether it is our product or some other products, quite a few of these are even today handled right from the OT side of business. So integration with OT, yes, PAM can do today. PAM can manage OT side of business as well. PAM can also do containers. PAM can also do, you said cloud and you said, oh, let's excuse the SaaS. No need to excuse the SaaS. PAM can manage the SaaS applications also very much even today. You mentioned containers. Yes, containerization. Yes, very much possible. Application to application communication or key management, right? We today do more from what we know that the likes of AWS, Azure, GCP, they have their own key management stuff. But then the challenge added there is, if you have built an application for Azure and you use the key management in Azure, if you port the application to AWS, it wouldn't work because you're using that native key management. You have to rewrite all over again. So yes, we have centralized, or PAM can provide you the centralized key management capability. So irrespective whether you deploy the application in Azure or AWS, it works, absolutely no problem. We can also do ephemeral access, if we understand ephemeral access, which is like the tokenization. So single time use tokens, that's available today as well. I think all of these are right available within the kind of PAM solutions that you see in the industry. So while some of you, if you want to answer this question, maybe you also tell if some of these things you have used or would like to use or would like to see. Any answers from the audience?
Yeah, on the product side, one observation that we have is offboarding, right? So everybody does onboarding seamless, right? The real world that when you go offboarding, that has to be improved a lot, because that's when
Number one question from a CISO, always he will ask, what about offboarding? So from a product standpoint, yes, I think these products handle offboarding very well. Typically, they integrate with your directory services. So if you are using a user from your directory, you remove the user from the directory, the next second, he wouldn't be having access to any of these devices, servers, whatever.
Yeah, just the real challenge, right? So privacy comes in now. The moment we do offboarding, the footprints are everywhere. And that area is not well seamlessly integrated. So you can upload in the Active Directory. What happens, the footprint that is spreading across application, and then the privacy kicks in, and like now you offloaded on the Active Directory, you can't track where the data is, seeded everywhere because you lost the primary key kind of logic, right? And that's when the interop cleaning across the board is important as a feedback.
No, well, we can discuss in detail offline, but yes, products today, whatever I know of, maybe not all products, but yes, products today are capable of offboarding across the technology platform that we have.
Can I add to that? So one of the problems today people face is your application dependency mapping, right? So today Bala is there, he accesses a particular application. Bala leaves the company, Sharan joins it, he accesses. Sharan leaves and Ajay joins, then accesses. And if you go back to the audit records, you will see Bala, Sharan and Ajay. But the question is, if the fourth person comes, will he know what access Ajay is supposed to have? And is that what he is having? That is something no solution in the world can give you on the platter. That depends on your governance. So what happens is, in your review, in your governance, how many times some people have accessed, why they have accessed, because for every access, yes, obviously you need a change, which has been approved, right? So that is one thing. So when we are looking at the chain, and then we decide that, okay, now Bala can continue to have the same access. Charan, I don't see you're not accessing this for more than 3 months. So I think we revoke your credentials. So this offboarding is something which is today, which is managed in Excel sheets, right? So where we map and we take it up. But there are solutions which, I mean, next gen PAM, which are bringing out the dependency mapping also, where you are able to see that this is what it is, and you know that this person had access to this, therefore I need to revoke there also. So that is, obviously, that's one of the things which is coming up, and feedbacks like this are very important. I mean, the more the feedbacks comes in, then inputs goes into the OEM, and then they look into it and they make an upgrade or feature to it. I hope I answered your question.
That's already there. I agree. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Thanks.
I have a question. How mature are we for the role changes within the PAM products that we have? Like within organization role changes, are we mature enough in the products that we are able to handle that?
Very much, yes. Meaning roles are mapped to their profiles, and roles will have mapping to access. So very easy. Not just PAM, I think even identity access management tools also have those kinds of capabilities. Meaning their privileges inside those applications can also be changed based on role change. Because people will obviously move up the ladder, and obviously their privileges will increase inside that. A classic requirement of typical ERPs and all that stuff. Yeah, very much so.
And it is not only limited to just the roles, because it is now bringing more granularity into the task. Earlier it was a role used to have say 15 tasks. If I assign you the role, you are privileged to execute all the 15 tasks. But today, with the same role for you versus Ajay, I can give you 4 tasks in that, and I can assign him 8 tasks for it. So that's the kind of granularity control which we can bring in today.
Okay, now let's move towards the privilege side of it, or the least privilege that we want to talk about. But before that, let's try and understand. Meaning, we talked about PAM and whatever capabilities earlier we talked about, most of them revolve around the access part of it. But once the access is there, then it is the privileges which are predefined, right? So we say privilege accounts are always on and always available, right? Because accounts have been defined. Accounts were defined earlier in that. So accounts are always on, always available. So do you agree with this aspect, and what risk does this bring?
Yeah, so giving default access to a person and not monitoring his activities may lead to serious incidents. That's what I will say on a practical approach. I definitely do not agree with that. And the best thing is that even if you are giving the access to your system administrators on a privileged infrastructure, you need to ensure some baseline access has to be given. The bare minimum access, which that person can fulfill his daily operational activities. That is the number one criteria. After that, if there are any additional privileges, as Bala was mentioning on the fine-grained activities or the rules which have to be enabled, those fine-grained rules have to be enabled on stage basis based on business requirements. So there has to be adequate business requirement why he requires the additional privilege. If that is being mentioned explicitly, it can go via workflow to his manager or supervisor. He can approve it on the fly. He will get the access. So that's the best benefit. You will also get to know the change management process, the actual change management which is happening within the organization, how your team is working, and how the approvals are being given. This will also fulfill your auditory requirement, etc. So this is how the practical way to work with solutions like PAM will evolve for a period of time.
Bala, you want to add something?
This actually, unfortunately, reminds me of an incident which happened in my friend's company, where we got an SOS call, and one of the employees, he was not very happy with the management. He just walked in, logged into AD, wiped off completely, logged off, went off. There's absolutely nothing. And every single shit works basis that. And he is wiped out completely. And backup nahi hai, backup gone. So what do we do? So they have absolutely no clue at all. Nobody is prepared for a kind of an insider risk. And I'm not saying that insider risk is a huge risk, but today, yes, we have heard about cases abroad where people were recruited who are part of the, who are employees in the organization, were asked to do certain things because they were being bribed and they were doing it. It's something from a CISO point of view, while I have to deal with external risk, now I have to deal with internal risk. Now, when we're talking about these kind of things, privileges, it's really a scary thing because why do I need to do frequent changes is one question. Two, if at all I have to do I have visibility as to why this is being done? Is it being done by the authorized people? Three, bifurcate maker checker. That is, I'm talking olden days PAM, because we couldn't do it. I don't know how many of you know that in the ATM box, which still runs your age-old operating system, you can't enable your second factor or anything because it doesn't support it. So what do? So it's a 14-character password. 2 people go and change the, login. 7 characters I know, and the 7 he will be knowing. So that's the kind of process banking industry is involved. Indian Jugaad. This is what we do. So we are good at it. And the common sense has evolved big time to address these things. But if you ask me as a feature from a technology standpoint, definitely, because earlier I had a plethora of privileges to execute. Then it became to just enough privileges. Then it went to 0 privileges. Now we are talking about on-demand privileges. So it's an evolution by itself, and the industry needs it. It's a very important piece, and if it use it appropriately, I think it's going to be a huge game changer.
Great. So 2 points from this aspect. You mentioned about the risks with the inherent accounts which will have, you can have insider risk, or you could have, let's say, even malwares or ransomwares who typically pick on these privileges, because at the end of the day, the server doesn't know, or the device doesn't know where the connection is coming from, whether it is coming from a user or from a malware or whatever, right? It gets a right credential, it will definitely give the access. So yes, definitely big risk reduction will happen. The other part is, as you mentioned, just-in-time privileges. You mentioned about least privileges. So if I say, and maybe it could be a short answer, if I say, if your PAM can help you implement this least privilege or just-in-time privilege mechanism, which is post-logon, okay? While classic PAM we all talked about, just pre-logon just gives you access. If this can help, would it reduce your risk significantly? I'm using the term significantly. Maybe.
No, definitely it's a huge, control for the CXO community, because this is definitely will bring in visibility as to what is happening. One, two, it brings accountability also, because it brings transparency and accountability, because if I'm going to live it, okay, this person has got it and he's executing it, I need to figure out from my dashboard, okay, what has happened there. But here, how many times this has happened and how many times it has gone, and somebody knows that, okay, there's two different people are being involved in the maker and checker. And the moment it's going to happen, why did you do it? The moment they know that, ask a question, why, then they have to think, okay, I have to justify this. So they will think twice before they actually do certain things. So that's something which is, today when we talk about risk, it is probability to impact. While impact is going to remain the same, I'm going to reduce the effect of probability as much as possible. So if I'm able to reduce the probability by another 10%, I will do it, because that's going to be one more toll gate for the for the attacker to cross. So that's something which is very welcome.
And Chiranjit, since you mentioned workflow for privileges, while we know workflow for access, but you mentioned workflow for privileges. Does workflow for privileges also reduce the inherent risk?
Definitely, because as soon as the workflow will evolve, as an immediate manager will question what kind of change it is, where are you doing it, what will be the impact, and how are you doing it? Have you analyzed or tested it out earlier in the test environment? Is it been ratified? Is it a recommended solution from the OEM if you're fixing a patch, etc.? So all those things will be there, and he need to answer those things before his supervisor gives him the access. So yes, that's a fail-proof mechanism for the change management, and a big enabler for the business also, I would say.
Thank you so much. Final question from my side. What kind of data points, since you mentioned dashboard, right? So what kind of data points would you as a CXO, would you expect PAM to provide to help you in building your dashboard, a CXO dashboard, or let's say a dashboard for presenting to the board?
See, this is one thing which I've always seen with most of the solutions. I keep talking with my partners, my OEM, a lot, because it's always a symbiotic effect. They also push me to think differently. I also push them to think differently. And today, if you look at metrics, it is not a dashboard which I defined 3 years back, and it's the same dashboard I'm following it, I'm monitoring it. There's something wrong, because maybe you've addressed the risk already. Okay, you have a control and you already monitored and kept it. But what are the blips? As I told you before, the patterns, create a pattern, deviations, monitor that. Now, the attack vectors and the attack groups are ever changing. The way somebody is going to look at. Now we have got something as evil proxy. Multi-factor authentication could be bypassed. How are you geared up for that? I mean, do we see anything kind of blips in that? So is there an opportunity for that? So the dashboard customization and how I can, draw a trend upon it with respect to a particular service or a port or a server or to a geo, because I may have global data centers. So is it focused on geo? Is it focused on a person based only? Because whenever Bala does it, that's a problem. That's something, that's a blip. Then that's a correlation which we'll have to figure it out. So the ask is too much, but if the OEM is able to give us a platform where we can customize fields, where we can bring it down, because every dashboard can change so dynamically. And if they're going to bring more real-time dashboards, which we are able to circulate and share as a widget or something like that, I think that will be phenomenal for us.
Great. Chiranjit, any final points from you?
Yeah, so on the dashboard, a CISO would like to know what are the normal risks or violations which he is getting within his environment. So entire single frame, single console spectrum, he should be able to see. If it is a MNC organization, he can say multiple countries, if he was a genuine user or not. Did he access it? When did he access it? Was it during the business hours, or was it during the approved hours? Or was it that he worked out of the hours and then tried to do something which might lead to downtime in production, or later on some major security incident within the organization? So those are the violations which a CISO will like to see. Also, some third-party intel with respect to key management or the critical resources ID being compromised. If that kind of threat intel the dashboard can give, maybe an immediate action can be taken then and there to avoid the major impact for the organization. That's what I will say.
Great. Thank you so much. I know we are out of time, but just in case anybody has questions, we can probably take a couple of questions here. We have one question here, and maybe we'll take another next question here. Yeah.
We are talking about PAM and ZT in general, right? So one of the major challenges in the industry we face is identifying the right solution, because even if you look at the zero trust, NIST has come with one architecture, SDP has another architecture, and many of the organizations are talking about outbound tunnel going from the gateway, which is again another architecture, right? Which is where most of the companies are today again. So how do you identify the right architecture, right organization when it comes to PAM and ZT?
There is no single answer to this. I mean, one answer doesn't fit anything. It's a mix and match. It's a point-in-time decision what somebody is going to take. So there are multiple approaches what you can look into it. Either you can group your high critical assets into a group, and that could be one zone. Micro segmentation with PAM is going to be a very good combinations, which is going to help on that. Segmentation or micro segmentation. And you can group Azure or AWS separately. See, the challenge is something different. It is not about what is not available, right? It is about what is that you can make use of best with the available ones. So the person who is going to sell the solution may not even have thought about it, because it is not their problem to solve. It is our problem, right? Because we are dealing with it. Because we don't do it, that's a risk the questions come to us. So we need to handle that. So we need to divide and rule. That's the easiest thing which we can start with. Don't try to achieve perfection on day one. Impossible. Impossible. You cannot address that. Focus on your critical ones, then medium, then low. Scale it up. Have an action plan, review it periodically, because unless you do this on a periodical basis, today you may not have a solution, but tomorrow something may come up. So you have to keep updated on that piece also. So there's no one answer to it, but yes.
Okay, thank you. Second question.
I hope I was able to.
There was a second question here.
Hello.
A little closer.
Hello. Okay. So this is regarding the user onboarding we do in PAM. So for example, if a user is onboarded and requesting multiple times and different requests to make the permission changes or provide more permissions. So how we can balance between the zero trust and ease of operation in such cases?
You mind if I take that question? Because being on the product side, probably I can answer it better. So ease of operations, very much understood. So there are two aspects. One obviously is the access. So access is not something which you will have too much things to debate about. If you will get access to certain servers, you get access to certain servers. You cannot just simply request for access for some other server and somebody will grant you. It's more about the privileges that you can do on those servers, right? So there, typically solutions today, number one, as I said, solutions today can give you least privilege. So while you log in, you have least privileges, but then you can elevate your privileges to deliver certain, let's say, tasks or commands or whatever. There could be certain bucket of commands where you could request for approvals, and only after that those tasks can be performed. And there could be certain bucket of commands which come what may, you will never be able to do. Something like Bala mentioned, RM minus RF. So you should not be ever able to do it. So those kinds of things can be bucketed. So it will definitely ease out. So you just elevate for all your routine stuff, request for critical stuff, and other very dangerous stuff you don't do at all.
So just to add to what Jay said, today you have solutions, PAM solutions, which can ensure that you can log in only from a particular laptop and only from a particular subnet. So that extent it's possible. So zero trust from a identity point of view, from a device point of view, and resource point of view is covered. So earlier PAM was focused more only on the identity part. It was not more focused on the device part of it. Now, yes, next gen PAMs are looking into it.
Yes. So continuation to that, like you mentioned, just in time, right? So for example, we are starting with the least privileges and then requesting for just in time privileges. But do you think that will again increase the time of the time and operation for that? Because once he requested, then it will go to manager for approval, and then again the cycle will begin.
We can discuss it offline, but yeah, as such it will not, because as I said, routine task you will only elevate. You don't need to ask for approval. Routine stuff, only critical stuff you want to request for access.
Okay.
It wouldn't. Okay, I think we are already out of time. Thank you so much for joining this session, and I thank the panelists also so much.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Ajay.